I want to introduce the Earthen one very briefly. We have its founder, Ruchika Chitrabhanu, right here with us. And we thank her for this fantastic platform that she's just actually launched with this very first talk. Not that she's new to any of this, she has been doing a lot of work in this space and very similar work through other platforms such as the Ahimsa Fest, which also she co-founded. And the whole objective of the Earthen One is to allow for opportunities like exactly what we have right now. Here I am, somebody that just lives here in Bangalore, but knows so many others like Namu and Vivek who are very inspiring in who they are and just their whole life. And I get an opportunity to utilize this platform to share their journey with all of you so we can all collectively benefit. So we really thank you, Ruchi, for this. Now we begin with the actual talk. Can all of you, Ruchi, can you see us and Namu quite clearly?
Perfectly.
All right, very nice.
All set.
So Namu, and can you just say hi so that everybody can see you on their screens?
Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Great, great. So, you know, I have to introduce them, and I have known them for a long time now, quite a few years. And it was a long time ago that I had requested them to come over to the place I live, which is quite far away from where they are, so they could actually show us what they do to live the lifestyle that they do, the fitness that they embrace. And I just remember that session so clearly, and so many people in my neighborhood still remember that session. So without much ado, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about Vivek and a little bit about Namu, so you have some context on what we are going to talk about and their background. So Vivek is a designer by profession. Okay, get this. And hang in there with me. He's an athlete by passion. He's plant-based for acceleration of that passion. Remember, I just said athlete for passion? So he's plant-based for acceleration of that passion. He's also vegan for compassion. And he's a wellness entrepreneur by marriage to Namu. And he's an absolutely elite cyclist. So that's Vivek for you right there. And then we have Namu. Beyond being this absolutely fit mom, she's an organic food entrepreneur and an art curator, but she's so many more things than what she just described, you know, as wanting herself to be introduced as. She's run the New York Marathon. She does these amazing shows where she hosts other people on a platform. And you have to see it to see how energizing, how inspiring those sessions are. So we'll get into all of that in a little bit. But I want to begin by talking to you both, and especially maybe with Vivek. Vivek, tell us a little bit about what it means to actually be an ultra cyclist, an elite cyclist as you are. Tell us a little bit about, you know, we're all lay people. We don't understand how many kilometers that is, what speed that is, what kind of training goes into that. So just give us a brief about yourself.
Okay, I think that's a great question because I end up talking to people quite often about cycling, and you know, I'm a competitive cyclist, I race and all. And people always think like, yeah, but you know, what's the big deal? Because even I can ride a bike. So there's this thing where, you know, in India, we haven't yet grasped what exactly the sport of cycling is, because it's not popular like cricket or other sports. But I mean, you know, to answer your question, it's basically one of the most physically demanding sports that there is. It's an endurance sport, so it requires a lot of strength, a lot of stamina. And probably one of the sports that requires the highest volumes of training. So, I mean, when, you know, I'm sure that everybody on the call here has ridden or hopefully rides a bicycle. So you just have to imagine doing that at 40 kilometers an hour for anything from 100 to sometimes 200 kilometers without a stop. So that's the kind of thing that we do in the competitive sport. And I think you also asked about training, right? Like how does one get there? So to give an idea there, the kind of volumes of training that go into being a cyclist at an elite level, we train anywhere from, like, back in the day when I used to race a lot, up to 700 kilometers a week. So definitely put in a lot more mileage into our bicycles as athletes than most people put into their cars. But yeah, I think that gives a kind of an idea. So you have to be like, turn yourself into a machine, basically. So it's very exciting.
Wow. And you've been doing this for many years now. How many years is that, Vivek?
Actually, it's funny. I was on a chat with my nephew, actually, who lives in Bombay, and he was asked. He said, like, so when did you get into cycling? And he's a kid, right? And so I thought about it, and I said, no, I just never got out of it. So that's actually the answer to the question.
Wow. So all your life.
We start riding, right, as kids, a little tricycle, then move on to bigger bicycles and all of that. So I kind of just, I never fell off the wagon. It just got faster and faster.
Fell off the bike.
I never fell
Thank-
off. No, I have
thankfully.
fallen off the bike actually many times, so I didn't fall off the bike.
Nice, nice. And so you turned your passion into something actually more than a passion, I might say. I mean, it's like it's second nature to you. You actually train very, very hard for it. It's hard work. It's not just, creative. You're sitting down to, garden or something like that. It's much more than that, much more involved than that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of sacrifice. See, these days I'm a little bit older. I'm still competitive, but in a different way. But at some point, it was really, you wake up before the sun rises, and you put in these massive kilometers, and you don't go out, you don't party. It can be hard. That was in the past. I've kind of changed my views on things now. We can talk about that later. But yeah, definitely, yeah, it takes a lot.
Nice, nice. So now I'm compelled to ask. So I'm really not into sports, but I'm in a family where both my children as well as my husband really play a lot, not nearly as competitively as you are in a particular sport. But one of the things I am aware of is the need, obviously, for training and keeping your body in shape, and there's all the physical aspect of it. But we all know that the physical aspect of it is complemented by many things. For example, good rest and good food. Now, I do know from having spoken to you that you were not always vegetarian or plant-based or vegan. And we do understand that as a competitive athlete, you are going to need a fair amount of nutrients in your body over and above somebody who has a regular lifestyle. Yours is a more extreme lifestyle. So tell me a little bit about how it was before you went plant-based and how it is now that you have gone plant-based. How are you managing the whole nutrition side of it? I know it's in the minds of many people, and it has been on mine. Am I depriving my children or my spouse of any specific nutrients so that they are somehow disadvantaged in their training? Now, I've seen Game Changers, and many people around should go see Game Changers if they haven't. But that's still a documentary. It's a lovely documentary. But you're here live and in person, and somebody I know. So tell us what about that journey, the before and the after.
Okay, so I mean, as you said, I wasn't always vegan or plant-based, and I think that at some point I've probably eaten everything that there is to eat, human flesh aside, and when you're an athlete, right, you're always looking for your edge. You train crazy amounts of volumes, and like you said, there's your downtime that's super important. You have to recover, and then there's what you eat and what you drink that's also super important. And the funny thing is that it's only in recent times where globally in sport this has come to the forefront. The training was something that was much more important in the past, and everybody has woken up to nutrition and recovery in the last few decades. So yeah, I did eat everything that there was to eat before. I followed every trend. I took all of the the sports nutrition pills, every drink that there was. I've also been sponsored by many brands, so I consumed a lot of lot of these extremely processed chemical sports nutrition products, because you need that edge. You're trying to recover, you're trying to perform. You can only train this much. So then what else can I do, right? So I did all of that. At some point, it was like almost, weighing things, Excel spreadsheet, like, this is protein, this is the amount of that I need to eat, and really being consumed by it. It was very stressful, actually, at some point. And then you're reading all of the information that's out there, and there's all of these scientific points of view that this is how much you need to do for this many hours, this many grams, and then you're trying to fit all of this into your life, right? And it's very stressful. So I did all of that, but my journey really changed at some point. And I would say thanks to Namu, who basically all of the things that I get really into, she introduces me to. So, she makes a big change in her lifestyle, and then that comes into the house, and then, I go that way. So I'm very grateful for that. But I just moved completely to, well, let me just say, so I've always been, okay, everybody's an animal lover, right? So, I'm an animal lover, right? We all love our cats and dogs, and I love everything on any number of legs and without legs and so on. And it always bothered me, right? And I'd eat all of this meat and to get my proteins and all of that. But I mean, I saw the light actually when Namu played
What the Health?
What the Health,
Yeah.
right? There's this movie called What the Health.
That she slept through.
She slept through. Story. So she was all about, the plant-based and everything. And I was like, okay, let's watch this. So we both watched the movie. Namu falls asleep, right? I go through to the end of the movie, and the next morning, I think I told you, like, that's it. I'm plant-based now.
Yeah,
and she thought I was kidding, but that was it, It's just that, I've always been looking at this kind of scientific information that's out there, but sometimes there are certain things that just make sense. So I watched this movie. It's very scientific. There's a lot of information out there. It made sense, but I would say that more than that, for me, I felt that at heart, what I've always wanted to do, which is to not eat certain things, right? Primarily animals, okay, because that's how I was thinking. I was like, oh, wow, I don't have to. I don't have to. I always thought I had to. And it bothered me and it hurt me, but I would do it for some stupid gains, right? And I was like, I don't have to. And then this big shift happened. And then, of course, you get into this whole new world. And then you try to discover, okay, so now how do I do this over here? And that has been a revelation, because I would say that, much later in life, once I made this switch, and we can talk about, the details of it as well, what do you eat and so on. But basically, when I moved to this plant-based diet, I just saw an incredible change in my performance. And I was outperforming myself with less training hours and better nutrition than I was previously with more training hours and supposedly the best nutrition and the best products. And so it brought a lot.
Actually, pause over there and tell me, when you say you were outperforming, can you tell me what you meant by outperforming? Is it that you had more endurance? Did you feel less tired? What was it was it measurable in some way?
Yes, absolutely. Because in sport, everything has to be measurable. It's all about milliseconds, everything. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, I mean, there are certain benchmarks that you have. So for example, there are distances, there are like race courses. There is a climb. In Bangalore, we have one mountain. It's called Nandi Hills. Right?
Yeah.
And that is a mecca for cyclists, because cycling is ultimately, it's all about climbing. That's where the challenge is. So everybody knows what their best timing is from the base to the top. Everybody knows what their best timing is in different seasons, because the wind changes and that also influences. So we look at all of these things, right? But I completely smashed my best timings from when I was younger on that diet with that training and, state of the art. And I came back older with less training, with a new diet, with a more peaceful mind, and I just smashed it. And I started smashing everything. And And it's also, your competition, right? When you're a competitive athlete, you're surrounded by other athletes. And there's like a big age difference, right? I still race with, people in their teens, early 20s, all the way up. And then you know how you perform against them. So, you can quantify.
Wow. Wow.
But
And all of this is whole food, plant-based, and no enhancers, so to speak, no
yeah,
special protein powder and things like that.
no performance enhancing drugs. Particularly in cycling, right? No, but actually, so I would not say that I'm whole food plant based in the sense
Okay.
that whole food plant based is a whole other level where, for example, there's no oil. You won't use oil. You will chew on the seeds and get the oil out of it, and so on. It's like, it's another step.
Next level. Yeah.
I'm just plant based. I love my olive oil. I love my coconut oil. I will eat some minimally processed things.
That's great to hear because, it almost sounds like this, oh my God, I have to do this whole food plant-based diet. And if I'm not directly chewing on that full, whole wheat, and if I'm having the flour of the wheat and it's treated as processed, oh my God, I'm not going to get the benefit. But what you just said is that, hey, even if you're somewhere there and you're generally focused on the food and, you kind of plan your day with food, then you're really getting the benefit that you just described. I mean, that's
Yeah,
news even to me.
absolutely. And I think, maybe what I would say are maybe a few thumb rules, like for myself. So I just avoid things that are processed. I go for foods in their most natural form. That's how I like to eat it in its least processed form, which means it's usually darker foods, a darker rice, not one that's been polished to white. If I'm eating bread, which I avoid because personally I don't do well with gluten. I love bread though, but I will eat a whole wheat bread. I prefer that. Um, but just avoiding these very processed foods. One thing I would like to say though, which is really important in this whole transition that happened from the kind of the way that I ate and performed before to now, which is probably the most important thing that I'd like to share, is that there's been a huge mindset difference. So before, from actually looking at tables and calculating and spreadsheets and figuring all of this stuff out, now to just really enjoying eating, right? And really enjoying wonderful fresh food in huge quantities. I eat a lot. And so now the whole stress factor has gone. Like, if I was going to say, if I'm racing tomorrow morning, I am racing tomorrow morning. I'm not worried about it because I'm just going to have a yummy dinner at home, which will be the kind of thing that we usually eat, which will be, I don't know, probably sweet potatoes with corn and this and beans and, just a wonderful meal. And I don't need to think because it has everything I need and it works. So
Yeah.
when your mindset changes and you're free of all of the stress that the industry and that everybody puts on you, you perform better also. Otherwise, it's like, oh God, I forgot to do that. I didn't do that. It's not going to work tomorrow. It
Yeah.
really changes you
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah, because your whole life has been this. Now it's changed and it's no longer a stress factor. It's just a lifestyle. That's a new lifestyle, which is actually more joyful. I want to talk about 2 points with you before I actually go over to Namu, because there's a very logical shift to the actual food. And I know that a large part of the food, definitely Namu has a very strong role in playing. One of the things I want to talk to you about is I've heard that when you were younger, you were asthmatic. And
Yeah.
it seems like that's gone away over the years, and especially after you went plant-based. Is that right?
So two things. One is I was very asthmatic as a child. So one of the biggest factors that helped me get through that and get out of it was sport.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a lot of all kinds of different sport. Cycling is great, swimming is great, all of that. And when I went plant based, a lot of my problems went away. Other problems that I had, skin issues and so on, and that was largely to the fact that I stopped consuming dairy. I actually became intolerant to dairy before I went vegan or plant based, and then when I was forced to stop that, that problem just largely just vanished. It used to come back once in a while and it kind of never came back. I'm
Wow.
not going to touch wood because I understand why. So there's no luck
Yeah.
involved. It's really nutrition. Your body reacts to foods. And when you get that right, you can see how things react and you don't need to touch wood anymore. And you don't need to keep your fingers crossed because it's just plain and simple. So
Nice.
the removal of dairy from my diet changed a lot of things.
This is such a misconception that vegetarians usually have, that they think that because they don't have meat in their diet, they're all fine, they're pretty much there. But dairy is probably, an 80% cause of a lot of problems in people's lives. And there's actually enough scientific evidence out there which shows, that most of us are anyway lactose intolerant. There's few people out there that are delightedly glugging down milk with no side effects at all. And if they don't have side effects visible, then they are happening elsewhere. And there's enough, people should go read this book called The China Study if they haven't, to understand the link between dairy and the diseases. And that leads me to another thing that you said, which, you said it was a revelation. And I had felt the same, the revelation. I actually almost felt cheated, of the whole social conditioning. You wake up, you're supposed to give your kids a glass of milk. I just remember plying my kids with cheese because I was told, what, just one slice of cheese and all their calcium is in. And I'm like, trying different ways to get that in until they become used to the taste and then they want that, their own. And a lot of that used to be processed. And only now you realize that that's even worse than, just plain dairy. Another thing that you said, I think, is a very important point, and you had emphasized this when you had come to give us a talk. And you went through protein and calcium, and you said, oh, kidney beans have this amount, not this amount. You said these are the sources of protein in your diet. These are the sources of calcium in your diet. And I remember a lot of people had questions around, okay, so how much protein do you have, and how much protein will come out of this? And your stock answer to all of that was, listen, we're not counting. It's a way of eating, it's a way of joyful eating where you mix in a whole bunch of complementary natural foods in their as close to original form as you can, and enjoy it while doing so, and you just get enough protein. You don't have to worry and you don't have to count. And I think you're so many years later you're still saying the same thing, which goes to show that's working for you.
It is, and you're right. Because so many of the people that I compete against, they know that they need to eat this many grams of protein a day, and they need to eat that many grams on their training days and that many grams on their recovery days and all of this. So it's like dairy, protein, these are all words that the industry around the world has, they've made us really scared. You need to do this for your children. You need to do this or you won't perform. You need to do this or you won't recover, right? So basically people are very easily manipulated when you instill fear. And then so there's fear on one hand, and then there's also the promise of boosted performance on the other hand, right?
Yeah.
But when you come away from all of that and you do something really simple, like you have a plate and half of your plate you just do veggies and fruits, right? And then a quarter you do a bunch of good carbs. Simple things, talking potatoes, sweet potatoes, whole wheat bread, whatnot, right? Ragi, all of these wonderful foods that are out there. And then the other plate, you do proteins, which would be like your pulses, your dals, rajma, chickpeas, all of these things which we're so fortunate in India to have like crazy list of them, right? You just do that, you get everything you need. You don't need to worry about the numbers. And for me, there's a little bit of a personal thing right now that I have, which is when I compete, when I win races, or when I perform really well, or whatever it is, I am like wanting to tell people that, guys, I did this on a bowl of salad, and a few bananas. That's all it was. And okay, granted, my bowls of salad are not like this. They're like this. Okay, I eat like a giant bowl of salad. But it's clean and you perform. And I kind of really want to make this point out there, which is why at my age, I'm 43 now. but I'm like really motivated to keep competing, because I just want people to see that this is possible, on a clean diet. By the way, the word clean diet, this is something that is used now in sports a lot. Athletes say, I've moved to a clean diet. And what that means is basically a plant-based diet. And the reason that it's called a clean diet is because it's rid of all evils. And rid of all evils is not, it's mean to kill a cow. Not that kind of evil. It's really the things in there that do harm to the body, right? So it's looking at it in a very kind of a scientific way. A lot of athletes care more about performance than maybe compassion towards, the planet and whatnot. But that clean diet, it leaves you feeling completely different. When you've eaten, you don't feel heavy. Your body isn't busy trying to break down complicated foods. It goes through it very easily. You recover much better. You sleep much better. You don't have spikes and then plummets in performance and energy, all of which used to happen before. Is just a lot more steady now. So as a whole, you feel a lot better. You recover quicker from an event. You're ready to go sooner after eating. You wake up feeling fresh, and you don't have these insane dips in energy where you would then reach out for some fancy product that's going to bring you back up,
Right.
which is otherwise what happens. It's like, I'm feeling down, I'm going to open a can of this, pop
Right.
a couple of pills. It's just not there. It's super clean and it feels super good.
I'm sharing a picture of yourself on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but Namu had shared this with me and said, basically, this is all you have after you've come back from such an intense, cycling morning. And when I look at it, I'm going back to exactly what you said, which is basic, simple food, except it's not, junk. You didn't just eat white bread with butter. There was some thought to what you're having, but it's simple. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is, it's like, sometimes when you go to a doctor, you're not happy unless you come back with a prescription and a proper diagnosis and you want all the treatment. It's like that with food these days, unless it's pretty complicated and, full of macros and micros and all of those things, you're not sure if you're doing the right thing. And here you are, you're personifying doing clean, simple eating and doing the right thing, right? I hope you could see that.
Yeah. It's a funny picture. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I just maybe, if folks are wondering, just to give you a run through, like a typical morning training for me these days is I do about maybe 75 to 100 kilometers in the morning before breakfast. And so on a, say, 100-kilometer day, I have a bowl of muesli with soy milk and one chopped banana in it. And again, I'll just stress that it's not going and riding for 100 kilometers. I'm back in less than 3 hours, which means that, you're doing a lot of drills out there. You're doing high intensity, or,
Wow.
You're putting your body, your heart rate is at 200 beats per minute. You're putting yourself through a lot. It's not a ride, right? So you go through all that, and then I come back. By the way, what I say works for me may not be the case for everyone, so it's different. I'm just sharing my thing. So I'll come back, and the thing you saw me drinking out of there is just a huge smoothie. But in the smoothies, again, soy milk. I have about 250 to 300 ml of soy milk I put in there. I chuck a couple of bananas in there. I put other fruits. That one was beautiful and red because it was pig pataya, right?
Yeah.
It was a dragon fruit. Oh, so good. It's got incredible properties, and a whole bunch of superfoods in there, which are just essentially powdered leaves and roots, like just minimal process.
We are going to get into the superfoods in detail.
I'll let Namu take over.
The boss is going to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah. So superfoods, and that's it. Some dates, a little bit of peanut butter. No sugar or anything, because all of the sweetness comes from fruits. And I have that. And if I'm a little bit hungry, I have a couple of pieces of toast, which is made of seed bread and avocado on top. And otherwise, just some tomatoes, salt, pepper, whatnot. Super simple, small. And that's it. And you feel amazing. The superfoods, which we'll talk about later, is all about, getting those additional nutrients that help you with your recovery. But that's it. And then I'm good till lunch. And lunch will be a gigantic salad, which is just raw, all sorts of leaves, veggies, carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, lots of beetroot, whatnot. Sometimes quinoa in there, lots of tofu, uh, because we need our protein, right? And tofu is an amazing source of protein. Um, but anyway, I'll just say that all of the other things that I mentioned in my bowl of salad, I see them all as protein because they are all protein, right? Greens are protein. All of your veggies have protein in them, but we've been conditioned to think otherwise.
Protein is okay, only the beans and meat, and dairy has some protein, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
we grew up hearing. You're right. You're right.
But in one of these movies, I can't remember. I think it's there in. I can't remember, but somebody says like, how how are you strong like an ox? This is actually the strongest man in the world, right? And that's in Game Changers, right? So what do you do to be strong like an ox or something? And he says, well, then I eat like an ox.
Yeah,
right?
an ox only eats grass and stuff. Yeah,
we don't need to eat the ox. We need to eat like the ox, right?
like the ox, not the ox. Yeah.
Where do gorillas? Where do elephants? Where do
Yeah.
bison, which are all these huge muscular animals, gazelles,
Yeah.
zebras? Where do they get their proteins from? Right? They get
Yeah.
them from just very large
Yeah.
quantities of greens, and they're
Yeah.
not short of proteins, which is the
Yeah.
most commonly asked question. Where do you get your proteins? I get
Right.
them from my salad. I get
Yeah.
them from my tofu,
Yeah.
and just a normal diet, and that's enough.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. So, I think it's a very natural segue to, the person not only behind everything that you do, but also a whole legend in her own right. So I have two options: either to talk to her directly about the food and share with everybody the array of foods that she primarily, along with your support and the kids' support, kind of bring to your lives. But I wouldn't want to do that before giving a proper introduction and perspective for people on who Namu really is. So Namu, I've known you also from a very different angle all these years. And I know that, from the brief conversations we've had just before this talk, that you were alone a vegetarian in your family for a long time, because you had heard a talk from Maneka Gandhi and you had become vegan for compassion. And you keep saying that you got into fitness a little later after you became a mom, in your early 30s. But when I look at your journey, I realize it wasn't just then. I think maybe because you've been living with an athlete, you don't think of yourself also as a fitness enthusiast right from the start. But people don't just go about and run New York marathons, okay, without some amount of fitness, a fair amount of fitness. So you've done a lot of that. And but you have all these sides of you which I almost think come together in this journey. You have been running Kinkini, which I have actually come to myself for years. I know nothing about art and you know everything about art. And I can't help but also see how similar both your journeys are, in a sense, because Kinkini, you basically curate art from India that has really seen wide acclaim across the world. And you've launched people's careers from Kinkini. And I noticed the same, Vivek has done the same thing with, setting up platforms for cyclists to launch their careers in India. You set up India's first pro cycling team. And along with all of that, because you're also, you're a mom, you're the keeper of people's health in the family, you took all of that journey in the art and almost took fitness, body, and home as your next landscape to curate. And you've created a wellness company all by itself called Happy Healthy Me, which also I've been very fortunate to have experienced over the years. Um, Tell us a little bit about both, and then we'll come to the actual foods that both of you prepare, because there's just this amazing array of foods that people have to see that you guys make.
Sure, about my work?
About a little bit about your work, your journey, and then this food. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really been quite a journey. I told you earlier that I started Kinkini when I was about 25 with Vivek. And I was really a kid. All other curators were about twice my age. I was 25, but I must have looked 16. I really looked very young, and I was very intimidated by all the artists were well known, and I had no background in art. In fact, every sort of new big career switch that I've made or new thing that I've embraced, I haven't really had any formal training in that. But it's been an amazing journey. The first few artists, thanks to my mother-in-law knowing a few artists, she introduced me to the first few, and they were too happy to work with me. And it just grew from there. But it kind of stemmed from a place that I always wanted to make an impact on other people's lives and improve their lives in some way. And it's a little funny quality that I have when I get into something, no matter what it is. I mean, now obviously it's plant-based living, right? I have to share it with the world with a loudspeaker. And I just want everybody to get on the same train as me.
I'm the first beneficiary, always. First beneficiary.
What a smart man. You didn't say first victim. You said first beneficiary. I think all men should take a cue from this.
My friends, family, no matter what, I'm like preaching, I can't help it. It's just who I am. And I like to share whatever I'm going through with the world, whether it's through a blog or whether through a talk show or just meeting people. I just can't shut up about it. And it's been very, very gratifying because, it's wonderful to work in art. You're being surrounded by objects of beauty and culture. It's been an honor. And of course, it's all about relationships. I really enjoy working with the artists. As a kid who went to a convent school and an international school and studied in the US, you're only exposed to certain types of people. So I hadn't met these, and you're also exposed to only your own age group. So suddenly to meet people in their 50s and 60s and work with all these people professionally, it's been wonderful. My world has been so complete, with that. And of course, all the relationships I've had with my clients through the years, it's been wonderful. And
so tell us then, Namu, along with that, because you're such a serial entrepreneur. You've done Kinkini. It continues to run. It has evolved. But you actually parallelly started Happy Healthy Me, but that didn't just come about. You actually, you talked about your pregnancy and the babies and your, journey to fitness and the Bangalore coach who guided you, etc., running coach. Talk about that.
Yeah, so, so I had 2 kids right after I started Kinki. They're 4 years apart, 2 daughters. And then funnily, every time I would get pregnant, the 2 times, Vivek would get extra fit and lose another 10 kilos or something, and I'd be sleeping in and he'd be tiptoeing out of the house at 4:30 in the morning and going on his, 100-kilometer bike rides. So, so we weren't on the same page for a very long time. And Vivek even, he bought me a bicycle to encourage me. But I had a couple of aha moments and, holidays that we went on where I couldn't even, walk up a flight of stairs. I was just so unfit. And I said, you know what, I want to be fit and strong and I want to be a good role model to my kids. And that involves, losing 10, 15 kilos. But it's not just about the weight. I just want to be fit and strong. So all of this weight thing is a non-issue, and I was still non-vegetarian at that time. But as I embarked on this journey, I always do it with a lot of research and, my own reading and talking to people. And of course, I worked with a nutritionist. And I slowly realized that organic is really important. It's not about just, counting the grams of protein and this and that. And all carbs are not equal. All calories are not equal, right? So slowly I educated myself. I made changes in the house. We removed processed food out of the house. I had to make decisions for the entire family. And of course, I'm a big foodie, Nitya. I want to enjoy every single meal. I think everybody should. So,
well, if you cook like that and produce foods like that, I think we would all be foodies only.
Point, everyone can. So, and then it brought me to, meeting, of course, my fitness went up a lot as I started to lose weight, and thanks to Vivek, and I finally started using that bike that he bought me maybe 4 or 5 years after he bought it for me. I said, okay, now I'm ready. And we went on our first 25-kilometer bike ride. And then every week we would take it up by a few kilometers. And then, finally I was doing 100 kilometers too, and riding up Nandi Hills. I did the Tour of Nilgiris.
Tour of Nilgiris, guys. I mean, she just glares past it. But Tour of Nilgiris is a big, big cycle ride. How many kilometers is that?
It's about 900 over.
Yeah, just 900, Namu.
900 in a week in the mountains.
In the mountains. It's really one of the toughest things I've ever done. And it was just so beautiful and so liberating as an Indian woman. I've grown up as a sheltered Indian girl where I just haven't been exposed to too many things because things are just unsafe. And then, as a 35-year-old woman, to be on a cycle all by myself. Of course, we had support and other riders, but very often I was just by myself, riding through fields and mountains, through Ooty and Munnar. It was just spectacular, and I couldn't have done that if I wasn't fit and eating well, So, and then it gave me the courage to get into triathlon the following year. And once again, all of this was fueled by just real food and superfoods.
But Namu, you kind of missed the part where you made the transition out of non-vegan to vegan, or plant-based. So you were, fairly fit when you ran the New York Marathon, etc., etc. Then you had your babies, and you were trying to get back into fitness, and you started cycling. But I think you also started running. You had a coach in Bangalore, and that coach encouraged you to look into plant-based. Is that what it is?
Yes. So, I was kind of not proteins. I wasn't obsessed about proteins, but I was very aware of my protein intake, and then my running coach, who had been vegan for several years, he encouraged me to go vegan. But I said, aren't I going to get weak?
And that's when you did the research. Yeah.
So no, actually, you'll be stronger. And so that's when I made the change, because of course it went with how my heart feels. And it was my own journey. I didn't try to convert anyone in the family, especially Vivek, because he was still a hardcore non-veg, I'm steak eating. So it was my own personal journey. And,
you said a very important thing over here, which I don't know if everybody caught, but you had, already gone vegetarian on and off because of the talk from Maneka Gandhi, though you come from a family where everyone else is non-vegetarian. And then when you got validation from the coach that, actually plant-based, you can do well, you suddenly found that your one side of you, which is all about animal welfare, compassion, you don't really feel like doing what you're doing, is suddenly in line with what's also good for you. Yes. I mean, isn't that such an unusual and amazing thing? I don't like to tell people to go vegan for health, because I feel like, the right compass to start with is compassion, and then you find, oh my God, it also marries very well with strength and fitness. So you did that, and you then, based on all your research, you had to come up and feed your family over time. Vivek, we heard that he watched What the Health, and he just turned overnight. And it's been at least 4 or 5 years since that happened. And you've got 2 lovely kids. Has it been very difficult to, have you ever worried that you're feeding them the wrong thing, or, you're not giving them adequate nutrition? And that seems like it's a stupid question, because both of you have just said, plant-based, you went for your health. But have you ever worried at any time that for children, it's an exception? Everyone says, you do what you want for your health, you're an adult, but children are growing, they need their proteins, they need this, they need that. Has that thought come into your head?
It's always a concern for me, because they don't eat as diverse foods as Vivek and I eat. They're kids, they're pickier eaters. They won't eat all the colors and all the textures and things, some healthy foods are kind of funky looking. So one has to be creative. So I am keeping my eyes open, and I'm always, I call in the morning with their breakfast, I give them, I call them omega-3 laddus,
Yeah.
And I do a little dance, and literally I'm dancing to these kids doing everything.
Yeah.
And they think that omega-3 laddus are, supplements. So, I blend like flaxseed powder and hemp seed powder and chia seeds with dates and cacao, and I make it really tasty so it looks like a little chocolate ball.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that is a good segue into showing the pictures of the foods that you create, and I think it's also very important what you just said. It would be careless of us to just tell people, oh, you can just be plant-based and eat and be very fit. But what it is, I've learned very important to do is plan your food. It's almost like relearning your food, and there is definitely some effort that you have to put in. And at least personally, I have enjoyed the journey because it's almost like I had to forget everything I knew about food and entertaining my kids. I remember there was a time where I would love to learn to bake. I have been born vegetarian, but I had even attempted to add eggs and stuff into my baking just to sort of excite the kids, have their friends over. I had learned so many things. And suddenly it was like I was looking at the kitchen going, okay, what do I make? Because I do know now, I'm educated now to realize that the kind of foods, I mean, even just one cupcake into their diet with all of that stuff, I am unfortunately harming them in that process. But should I go the other extreme and just give them only healthy food, mama type of food, and they'll start disliking it, etc. But that's where I think you get creative. So I want to share some pictures at this point of the foods that you create. Can people see the screen with the foods?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Down.
So that's basic. Listen, guys, that's just basic, you know, Indian food right there. And I'm not going to go past these pictures. I'm not going to pause at each picture because there's a lot of pictures, but I just want you to focus on the vibrancy, the color, the quantities. Basically, nobody is looking very deprived over here.
Yeah, so one had to get really creative, especially as lockdown began and nobody had any staff at home. And I mean, we all wanted to look forward to something, right? Which was meal time. And so I decided to make a big effort in the kitchen. And that's the only way. We have to make it look good and get the kids really excited about eating all of these veggies and colorful foods.
So one of the things that's clear that you do is your volume of vegetables and fruits in the house increases. Your volume of eating raw increases. And
Yeah.
I'm going to now segue into a very important topic, which is the superfoods. Now, you've been running this company, Namu, Happy Healthy Me. Tell us a little bit about how you started that while I go through these pictures. And share with me a little bit about the superfood specifically, because I know that for the last few years, it was a very easy way for me to feel good as a mother and add it to my children's, like a porridge or a smoothie or a sauce that I'm making, etc. It just felt like I was adding, one thing you told me about, I remember, is amla, right? Amla and what potency it has, right? So talk a little bit about that.
So, as I started researching, and even before I started Happy Healthy Me, and this was during my half Ironman training, it was an intense amount of exercise. So I would actually work out twice a day, and it was a lot of work on my body.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would do a 1 hour workout with my personal trainer, and then I would eat my first breakfast, oatmeal or something, muesli. And then I would head to the swimming pool and swim 4 kilometers,
Wow.
which is just so intense. And then I had to work, for whatever part of the day was left over. And then I had to come home and be a parent, and I needed stamina for all of that.
Yeah.
And all that I would have after my bike ride was a smoothie again, like Vivek has, with these superfoods, with amla and spirulina and moringa. I would experiment myself. But later on, and it was incredible. I would be fatigued after a long swim, like a 4 kilometer swim. It would take me a long time, it would take 2 hours nonstop. But I would drink the smoothie and I was fresh. I was good to go.
But Namu, don't you have cravings? Sometimes, if I've done any minimal workout and I come home, like, yeah, that idli sambar, man, or a nice crisp dosa. Don't you feel like that? How does a smoothie do it for you?
See, I don't consider idlis and dosas as junk food, so they're very much in my diet. So when I
Oh,
crave, I eat it. But
yeah.
I'll tell you when my junk food cravings go up. Now
Yeah.
my body is so acclimatized to having whole foods, right?
Yeah.
So when I eat like brown rice or red rice or quinoa, I'll eat the right amount and I have the right amount of energy through the day. But if I eat white rice, or
Yeah,
if I
I've
don't
noticed that.
eat enough
Yeah.
vegetables during the day,
Yeah.
I'm very hungry, so I don't have enough fiber,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
noticed that I'm very sensitive to, so even one day where I eat out or
You're
eat,
so right about that. You're so right. I mean, I've noticed that the dramatic difference between, so there was a while there where I was only eating fruits in the morning for breakfast. And it was very strange that even by 12:31, I was not hungry. But
yeah,
on days where I have given in and gone to a local darshini's, which I love, and I
yeah,
have had nice load of idlis and sambar and all
yeah,
that, by 12, I'm hungry again,
yeah.
like really hungry. So if you look at the quantum of the food I ate, what was like one apple, one banana, in the morning, maybe two, right? Versus like a nice large plate of all of that breakfast food, you would think I should be less hungry with the latter, right? But it's the former. It's amazing.
So we
Yeah.
make dosas out of brown rice and red rice, black
Millets.
rice, quinoa, millets, ragi. And so again, now kids don't like our kids look at white foods now. They're like, this is weird. Why isn't it green?
Yeah.
We
No
use
problem.
all sorts of colors in
So
our
the
house.
trick is to start them young.
And yeah, so but no, it wasn't that easy. If we started all of this when they were born, it would have been easy. But
Yeah.
it all started when my older one was maybe 10 years old and
Yeah.
very well aware of what corn
Yeah.
ice cream tastes like and Oreo cookies taste like and
Yeah.
all of the junk food.
Yeah.
And so it's been a transition, and like you said rightly, it's a journey that we're all going through, and we continue to do that as a family. But since Vivek and I just, it just comes from an honest place, and they see what we're doing, and we try not to lecture them. Do we lecture them? I don't
We
know.
have lectured them
A
plenty,
lot,
which is
yeah.
not advisable, right? But it just happens.
I
But
think
we
we
lecture.
will meet Surya and ask herself very shortly. But before that, we have to talk about the actual contents of those fit foods, superfoods that you talked about. Namu, tell me about that amla example again,
Yes.
because the volume of vitamin C it has totally stunned me. And ever since then, every day in my life, there's amla in my food. So tell me.
So, when I started my fitness journey, especially during the Ironman training and all of that, I, I started reading a lot about superfoods. But then a lot of these articles come from the West, the US and Europe, where the local superfoods there are blueberries and all of the berries, the Western, even herbs like oregano and rosemary are very high
Or
in
hemp seeds or things like that. Yeah.
yeah. So then I started, digging a little deeper, and I discovered it. So a food is a superfood when it has a very high antioxidant value, and a superfood is basically a
It's
nutrient,
dense.
yeah,
Yeah.
nutrient dense. For example, rice and dal are good for health, but you still need so much to fill up and
Mm.
get the adequate nutrition from them. But from a
Mm.
superfood, you need between a quarter teaspoon to maybe a tablespoon or two daily to
Mm.
get a huge boost in your immunity
Mm.
or stamina or whatever the reason is that you're
Mhm.
taking the food for.
Mhm.
All right. So I saw a huge change in my immunity and stamina once I started consuming amla. So amla, which is the Indian gooseberry, we don't know that it's from the berry family. We don't get locally grown blueberries here, and the strawberries, most of them are full of pesticides. And they're expensive. The most inexpensive superfood is the amla. And
But it beats blueberries hands down in vitamin C. I remember you sent me that.
Yes, it's about 50 times more potent, and it's not just the vitamin C content, it's the ORAC value,
Oh,
ORAC.
I
Okay, so
see.
you can see the charts, literally,
Oh,
you see a chart of, it'll be blueberries and oregano and goji berries, and then here's amla. It's literally off the chart.
it's our humble little amla. Nellika is what we call it in South India. in Tamil Nadu, and our humble amla is that strong. But you also said that when it's dried and powdered and you add a little bit of it, its nutrient content is even more dense, right?
Yes,
It's different
yes,
from just
yes,
using it
yes.
fresh.
Yeah, so if you
Yeah.
get powder, which is, one of the products that we developed at Happy Healthy Me, it's the equivalent of eating quite a few amlas, and realistically, it's a bit of a sour fruit. It's not as tasty as blueberries and strawberries. So you do get a lot more nutrition from it, so.
I have to say, it's me putting a plug in for these products. They happen to be from your company, but we all know that I did not approach you or you did not approach me for sharing brand information about Happy Healthy Me. I'm just a genuine user. And when Ruchika reached out to me, I said, you know what, these guys, they have to be, people have to see what they do. And that's why I'm sharing this. This is one example of a packet of things I use. There's a whole bunch of these you have. What are they? What are all of them? I know I use spirulina, I use amla, I use definitely chia seeds from your company. I have your rainbow colored quinoa that I use often. What else? Invisible super greens, right? I think you have that. What else do you do?
So this product is great because we work with a food scientist a plant-based food scientist to develop it. And it's just the right proportions of these superfoods, which are amla, spirulina, which all help in their immunity, stamina, recovery, endurance, all of that. It has a bit of ashwagandha, wheatgrass, barley grass, moringa. It's hard to kind of blend all of these superfoods together every time you're making a smoothie when you're exhausted, right? So,
but can I overdo this, Namu? In any way, will I be harming myself if I overdo this?
Well, you should follow the instructions of, it's about a teaspoon or two in a smoothie, and that's all you really need. I mean, with the kind
Actually, it'll get too bitter beyond that. I think this is
absolutely.
enough.
You wouldn't want to. Nitya, it's really interesting. When we were developing this product, and it went through several iterations, and we would do the tastings, right, of every version of it. And I remember one day I was really tired and I was very low on energy, and my eyes were like half closed. And I just went to the food scientist and I said, let's get this over with. And then I had all of these little shot glasses with water and these different versions of the Fit Super Greens. And I kept drinking them. And, this whole session took about an hour. Within half an hour, I had all my energy back. I felt bright. I was energetic, not in the way that caffeine gives it to you in a jolt. It was a beautiful way that I was awake again and I was sharp and alert.
Yeah. It's funny now. I've been feeding my kids this for a long time. They think it's just normal. And now some of their friends come home and we have these evenings where people come home for smoothies. These are kids that play basketball locally and stuff like that. They just come over and I'm feeding them whatever it is, this portion that I give my kids, they also want. So I give them this. This is quite hilarious. And I try to tell them, this is how you do it at home. And many of them are like, listening and watching. So it's quite entertaining. That's nice. I think it would be time to ask Surya what she thinks about all of this journey.
Surya's joining us.
Hi, Surya.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Such a pleasure to meet you. And if I may introduce you, this is Namu and Vivek's second daughter. They have an older daughter, also Veda, super nice. Her name is Veda. And Surya was originally Surya, but she has such a special creative artistic mind and she wanted a different spelling and she has it as Suria. Very nice. So clearly you're not somebody that's just going to be taking anything lying down. Tell me two things, okay? One is why are you vegan? You're not forced to be. Your sister's not vegan and nobody's forcing you. Why are you vegan?
Well, do you want? Okay, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I was vegan was I didn't become vegan all of a sudden. For like a long period of time, I was non-veg, and then like I watched this movie called Okja. Have you heard of it?
I have watched it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good movie, as you would know. and it's about this animal and about how this girl goes through everything to make sure that Okja doesn't get killed.
Yeah.
And her father, who seems so nice, who's helping raise her pet that she would take for walks every day and he would save her when she fell, he was just doing it to get money to make meat.
Yeah.
And it just made her heart break.
Yeah.
So, like after watching that movie, I think I cried for hours on end, and it made a big impact on me. And then I'm just like, maybe I haven't seen this, but if this is what has to be done for meat to be brought on my plate, then I don't want it to happen like that.
Wow, Surya, I've not spoken to you before this, and just before you came, I was thinking, oh my God, we should have at least sent some questions to Surya so she could prepare, but I didn't, and I just asked you a question off the top of my head. Look at you. You are such an absolutely amazing speaker, very articulate. And what surprises me is that somebody as young as yourself, and you've now been vegan for some time, so, and now, oh, you're all of only 11. I know you feel like that's big, but compared to us, that's still very small. And you really got the essence behind that whole story of that movie. And it was compassion for you that makes you vegan. Now, but is it hard? Because the normal outside is everybody's eating pizza. Your parents are giving you some green stuff. Sometimes my daughter has asked, "Did you put the green stuff in the mango smoothie today?" Right? And I'll be like, I'll try to pretend I didn't, but they know from the color that I did. Right? So how do you eat healthy when everyone around you is eating unhealthy?
Yeah.
So actually, um, what I was telling you about the movie Okja, it made me want to turn vegetarian. So I was trying to turn vegetarian, but then I'm not sure where we were, but I remember the scene. Like I know, like if I go back to that cafeteria, I'll remember it, but I don't know like which city we were in. Yeah, Goa. I knew it was somewhere not Bangalore. Yeah, so we were going to a cafeteria, and I had only recently decided I was going vegetarian. And my grandma, my mom's mom, I don't think she knew I was going vegetarian because earlier than that, I love meat. Like it was yummy stuff. Yeah, but so when we were going to the cafeteria, um, I don't know why, but somehow she just brought up the topic of saying you're gonna have yummy sausages there, and then that just brought the thought to my mind. I need sausages. So then I was just suddenly craving sausages. And then I just broke the whole thing after not too long and ate sausages.
Yeah.
But then I don't think after too long, um I decided again I wanted to go veg, and that time it was for final. Um it started off being pure veg, not eating egg or anything. But I am lactose intolerant. Being vegan was by choice. Even if I wasn't lactose intolerant, I would be vegan right now. But lactose intolerantness is a motivator for me to continue being
It makes
vegan.
it easier because you know that you're going to suffer from this, right? Wow. So, yeah, tell me more about. So, you talked about how, because mentally you thought about how you just don't feel like those animals being killed, and you're committed, and then the one time you went back to sausages, but you came back, and it's been that journey. But how do you eat healthy? I mean, your parents are giving you green stuff sometimes. So how do you like eating healthy?
Do you care about it? Or?
Yes, I like eating healthy because well, it's
Does it
healthy.
taste good? Does it taste good? Is it the same as your pizza? I mean, you could get Domino's pizza, but you're not doing that. You're eating other stuff. Why?
I've never actually liked Domino's pizza.
Smart girl.
Like, like from young, I've been eating healthy or healthy-ish. Like from like earlier, I've improved a lot. Like if I say so myself.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah, you can say so yourself, no problem, Surya.
Just a certain taste of things, a certain quality, and some may think being vegan or eating healthy would like either make you feel deprived or like you're missing out on stuff, like make you feel like you're not like you'll be eating stuff that you don't like and you'll be missing out on stuff that you do like. But for me, it's like the exact opposite. Like for me, vegan is just like high standards. That's all it is to me.
Amazing, Surya. Just amazing. I think hearing it from the mouth of babes. But you know that logically leads me to the question, Namu, that Veda is not necessarily vegan. I know my son is not vegan; he's vegetarian. The rest of my family is now vegan. It's been a journey for us. How do you manage a household like that with compassion, without putting the other person down? I mean, honestly, somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm always pushing the agenda, right? Because not just because of compassion, but as a mother, I'm just like, oh my God, what are you doing to your body? You know, when I was pregnant with you, I was eating so healthy. I just want you to be healthy. And now you're eating this, right? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so, like I mentioned, this whole journey and change for us happened in the middle. So we have to give everybody their time to catch up, right? So, Veda's come a long way. She's going to turn 15 next month. And so one has to respect both our kids and their decisions as well. You know, she was the pickier eater out of the two. And, but she's just come a long way, I think, less from our lectures and more from just watching us. And then one day she suddenly announced that she wants to eat salad before every single meal.
She's gone super healthy.
We're like, she's just like, thank you, God. The angels were singing. We were so happy. And then she started eating salad. And so, we've got to a point where we're all eating the same meal. I'm really working towards that because it is such a pain to cook two different meals. And we just want to eat together and all eat the same thing,
Yeah.
So what she has accepted now, and and it goes with what we believe in, is that we're vegan at home, so everyone is vegan at home, and she's accepted that. She actually enjoys it. She loves the burgers that we make at home, and every time we order in, they really say, oh Mom, your falafels are better than this place and your burgers are better than this place. And I'm just so happy that they can be so happy and find comfort, so much comfort. They enjoy it, And now she goes to school and she would insist that we would pack her salads to school. So it would be salad plus her sandwiches and plus and packing her food and everything. And then it turned out that she was lecturing her friends. And this is bad for you. So I mean, she's a non-vegetarian, but she also grew lactose intolerant because we're human. We're all lactose intolerant. So she stopped dairy. So she's busy lecturing all of her friends. The dairy is bad, and she wouldn't drink Coke. They've never been to McDonald's and all of that. So, she may be vegan, but I think she's come a long way, and I'm so grateful for it.
I'm so glad to hear that, Namu. I think I've enjoyed this talk just so much. And there's people now with questions, so it would be bad for me to hog all this airtime. And I think we should ask questions. So Ruchika, would you want to ask the questions since you've been watching all the questions? I can begin with the first while you're unmuting yourself.
Yes, I've sent you all the questions, so you can.
Okay, great. Let me ask them. Yeah. So Namu and Vivek, how to avoid pesticides and fertilizers on raw food eating? Because see, in raw foods, while you get the nutritional benefit, you're also more worried about the contamination aspect of it. So if you have to only go organic, it's not easy to afford organic, at least at the stage we are in, until the world turns to organic. It's still predominantly mass produced, chemically sprayed kind of food. So what do you do then?
Well, you can wash your fruits and veggies really well. and you can look up the dirty dozen, which are primarily Western vegetables that basically absorb the most pesticides and try to avoid them, like
Good
strawberries,
point.
grapes, and celery, and things like that. But
Spinach and things like that,
yeah,
right?
just look that up. But you can wash them in a vinegar water solution, and that washes as much as possible. But let me tell you that, even if you're consuming the pesticides, you're still better off than eating
Oh.
non-vegetarian food, because those animals have been raised eating, it's a concentration of pesticides.
Yeah.
They've been eating so much of this type of.
And Namu, what I've realized is I would rather spend that money on organic than actually spend on the hospitals, diseases. I
Yeah.
mean, stunning when I
Absolutely.
look around and see people my age with blood pressure. I'm 46. People my age with blood pressure, diabetes, and just everyone older than them going down a path in India. It's almost like that is the pandemic. The pandemic
Yeah.
is not coronavirus anymore. It's almost like my
Yeah.
entire aunts and uncles generation, and there are many of them. I have 13 on one side. If they compare sugar numbers,
Yeah.
I mean, that's their entertainment as they talk to each other,
Yeah.
right? And I really want to help them also because they're family. I want to say, hey, listen, this doesn't have to be through medication, right? So what you're saying as a response is even with chemicals, you're better off eating plant-based.
Yeah.
And what we're adding to that is you will end up probably ahead, even if you spent the extra money on organic, because you would not have spent on something else that was a lifestyle to manage, like
Yes.
medical
If
pills
you
and all that.
can afford organic by moving something else around, I would highly recommend that, because like you said, when there's a medical issue, you're going to beg, borrow, steal, and you're going to have to pay that money anyway. You don't want to, it's not enjoyable, and it's taking your quality of life away.
And just to
Yeah.
be clear, we say like eating those chemicals, this is obviously after you have tried to wash it as well as possible and taken all of those steps, right? It's like
Yeah.
Whatever, the
remainder,
residue.
the little bit of residue that you consume, which is
Yeah.
still,
Yeah. Now, because I am a little bit ahead on this journey, maybe compared to some of the people who are asking the question, I would like to ask a follow-up question that others may have down the road. When I started eating raw, one of the, I'm also like you, I do a lot of research, I've read a ton. Spinach, for example, has a ton of oxalates,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's why growing up, we heard that you want to cook it before you eat it to reduce the oxalate content. Something else that would have that much would be, say, star fruits and things like that, right? I remember actually I had once a star fruit juice and I enjoyed it so much. I had so much of it and then I was extremely sick. I mean, just for the day, not onwards. So, as Indians, over the years and generations, for whatever reason, we cooked our food. Salad was cucumber, tomato, onion on the side at the most. And if you came from the community I come in, even that was not there. Onion and garlic were anyway not part of our diet, and cucumber, tomatoes were really not a big part of our salad. Once in a while, we had some raita. But is there a danger in this? I mean, taste acclimatizing is one, but could I be overdoing my spinach and my lettuce and my, all these other things?
So with your greens, it's good to rotate them. Okay. And so we don't eat spinach every day, and I would never put only spinach in a smoothie. Okay. So the best is to eat the rainbow. And when you look at that vegetable list and you're doing your shopping, I'm saying look at the vegetable list because everyone's shopping online nowadays. And you just try to check off everything and try and check off one or two that you're not used to, just be a little brave. Don't just get aloo, peas, or whatever it is that your parents used to eat, or whatever, that gives you comfort. Reach out for different things, and not just with the fruits and veggies, even with your grains. All the colors, black rice and all are so delicious. And look at the fruit. We live in a tropical country. We get mangoes, passion fruit. We're so fortunate. Imagine that we can get fresh tender coconut, and everybody around the world is drinking bottled coconut water, We're very fortunate here in India to have access to all of these vegetables and fruits.
So I think a short answer to my question, and probably what others can leapfrog all my and yours difficult learning, through books and everything, what you just said about the rainbow, right? I've heard that word from everybody, right? Where if, and what Vivek said earlier also, if through the day we have a rainbow of vegetables, and obviously every day you're not doing that. Say today's rainbow, let's say it had bindi and beans and cabbage and some spinach. Then tomorrow you don't want to do bindi, beans, cabbage, and spinach. You want to add something else, right?
Variety is the one word answer.
Variety is the one word answer. So, I'm just going to take this leap, and it was not planned, but I'm going to share my own, what I have in stock right now, just to give people a idea. And you can tell me if this is looking good. If you can see the screen, just hold on a second. I'm just going to share my screen over here so people can see. Sorry. What is happening over here? All right, we'll just continue with the questions, and when I get the screen, I will come back to it. But one of the questions has been, there you are. Some difficulty with the, my husband feels very hungry after whole plant-based food in evening. What could be the reason for hunger spike and how to overcome it? I think you kind of alluded to it, but if you were to summarize it again so that these spikes don't happen. If I may repeat what you just said, it's about eating whole food well from morning to night and you won't feel hungry. But if you can summarize it in your own words.
I'll say one thing, when I made this transition to a plant-based diet, I had actually done it a few times before while training, eating all of that, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know the term plant-based then. I wasn't necessarily thinking vegan. I think vegetarian was the word. So I did it a few times and it really didn't work. Like I thought this is a disaster and I went back, and I tried again and I went back. Now I think getting it right is key, right? You really, to make the transition, you have to do it right. And there's tons of information out there on, how to balance your plate. There are apps, there's all sorts of things. But basically, you need to eat a lot. You see, if you're eating veggies and fruits and so on, they have a lot of fiber in them. When you eat a lot of those, you need to give yourself some time for your body to adjust. Usually about 3 weeks is as long as it takes. But your body needs to readjust. Our stomach, when used to eating different things, we still react a certain way. We're missing that, right? So I think one is like your fruits and veggies, the volume should be really high. If you tend to fill yourself with carbs, it's a different feeling. You don't feel as good. You tend to feel a little bit more of the dips. I don't swear by carbs at all. But I would say that volume, like definitely up the intake of your fruits and veggies. And then usually you feel really fine. You go to bed with a nice light feeling. You don't feel hungry, but you feel good. You don't go with that, like, I need to pass out feeling, which is a wrong way, actually.
Yeah.
Namu, anything
actually,
trying to find, I wish we found this image, but I'm sure you would have seen it in all these books and these, articles you would have read. There are these images of illustrations of the human stomach, right? The little kidney-shaped stomach.
Yeah.
With 1,000 calories of oil, right? So if it's like this, it just kind of. Okay, so basically we have sensors in our stomach. So if it's empty, we may have consumed 1,000 calories of fatty foods, but it's actually filled up only maybe a third of your stomach. So your sensors in your stomach are telling you you're still hungry. So the only way, for your sensors to know that your stomach is full is to actually fill it with plant-based foods. So let's say, like a 400 or 500 calories of plants is actually a lot of volume. So most likely your husband needs to have a lot more volume of healthy plant-based foods that are fairly lower in fat.
And you can try filling a little bit like with fruit. Because what happens when you cook things, also, everything kind of just becomes much smaller.
Yeah.
If you eat a little bit more raw, like a little bit more salads or a lot more fruit, apples and all that with dinner, right? Ideally, even before dinner, but that's getting into the fine tuning. That really helps with the volume.
Yeah. So, I think, you can begin with the tips that are already provided over here. I honestly feel with all the learning, it comes down to this, what we just said, right? I mean, you can learn all you want, spend the next 2 years reading up, but what we just described in this last hour is all there is to it. Now, another way is to actually, there are a lot of coaches that can help you go transition, and they can guide you. So there are 3-week programs, 1-week programs, and I think in the upcoming days we will have a few of those. So you're welcome to try those out. But Vivek and Namu, if you can take a quick look at what I'm going to share and tell me if I'm on the right track, because this will give people an idea. If you can see my screen, so this is how I plan my foods. Okay, so you can see I have greens, I have cruciferous, I have gourds, I have regular, then I have root vegetables, and then I have a remember to use category that's in the fridge, right? And then I put my processed foods all the way to the end, and this is what I currently have. And then what I do is, because I have this maintained at all times, I then decide, what am I having in the day? And the reason I share this is, unless I have a planned way of eating, I find that it's very easy to fall off the wagon, right? This way, I kind of prepare in advance, and I'm making sure, I have methi on this day, I have moringa on this day, I have included some gourds and roots. Would you say this is, I mean, ignore the white pasta here, but other than that, would you say something like this is beneficial?
See, that's really handy, Nitya, and I think it just shows the type of person you are and the way you like to organize, right? However, I think this is quite intimidating for someone who's starting out. Maybe that so much planning is required. So if anybody is here in the audience who wants to make a switch or get healthier, I would say start with the cuisine that you're used to, and that gives you a lot of comfort. If it is Punjabi or if it is Konkani or Maharashtrian, whatever, just stick to your cuisine and just healthify.
Okay. That's another good thing. Yeah.
Because
stick to your own cuisine.
Because that gives you a lot of comfort, and food has to give you comfort, and it brings the family together. So you don't have to switch to salads and pasta and quinoa and hemp seeds and all at all. So you just kind of healthify those recipes. So instead of white rice, you can switch to millet or brown rice or red rice. And instead of this much vegetable, you just increase the volume of vegetables on your plate and cook it in the same way that you're fond of, So
I mean, even a paneer to tofu.
Yeah, paneer to tofu, palak tofu, with cooked rotis, and there's so many. That's how I encourage to.
Okay, that's a really good tip, because I think, one of the questions has been, or the comment has been, it's a steep learning curve. And I think you just said it doesn't have to be a steep learning curve. You stick with what you are normally eating, and just healthify each item in it. Look at each item and increase the fruits and vegetables in your diet. That's basically what you're saying.
That's it.
I mean, slowly replace the ghee with some good oils, cold pressed oils. That makes such a massive difference.
Remove the ghee. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, ghee, I'm saying because it's an animal based thing. But even if you're cooking with oils, if you can slowly move from your refined oils to your cold pressed oils, things like that make a huge difference. If you do have to have your tea and your coffee sweetened, move from your refined sugars to jaggery, slowly move that way. But oils, cold pressed oils from ghee, moving to tofu from paneer, there are certain soy products that you can move to that kind of replace the meat feeling a little bit. They tend to be more processed, but it depends on you. I mean, if you can handle it well, then it's fine. It gives you that satisfaction. But
got it.
The huge takeaway, and something Namu and you've already said, is, in no way should your enjoyment of eating go away. And I think Surya said it nicely, I mean, for us, every meal is a party. I mean, we both we love doing it. It's always an event, right? So we look forward to every meal, and that's kind of how it has to be. You should never make the changes where it's like, punishment. I don't want to eat that, because then it's not sustainable. And I mean, there's only one life. You can't do that, right? You've got to enjoy your meals, because I mean,
Yeah, so take the trouble to think through what you're eating right now and make the changes slowly one by one. Now that you're aware of where those spikes of sugar and all are coming from, start changing to whole grain, whole vegetables as raw as possible. Add a salad, make that plate. I like what you said about the plate. Cut it into 4 quarters,
Yeah.
and another tip I heard was, if you're eating a plate full of those 4 quarters, which is basically vegetables, dal, a little carb, maybe some more vegetables or fruits, right? And there's two schools of thought: don't mix your fruit with veggies or whatever you want to do around that, right? But if you're going back for a second helping, bring back all those 4 quarters. Don't just load up on the carb side of the
Yeah.
item and keep those veggies constant, right? That way you maintain the ratio of what
Yeah.
volume of veggies you eat. Yeah.
I think if you do it right, if you actually take your plate and you put half of it as fruits and veggies, your chances of going back to fill your plate again are much
Are
smaller,
unlikely. Good point. Good
because
point.
you actually fill up quite well. So you don't, otherwise we go and we take that one little item, naughty, tasty item, and then we want more of it. And that doesn't really happen. You have a full plate like this, you're done,
Also, I noticed that when you eat all these veggies and fruits, it takes time to eat them. And by
Yes.
then, that whole signal to the brain around eating has changed. Whereas on the days where I've just had a khichdi as an example, right?
Yeah.
I find that I've swallowed it so much faster. So
Yeah.
I've gone back for the second helpings more than if I would have had the salad and the veggies, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
another thing I can say for folks who are maybe missing the meat and want to make this change. Like we eat a lot of burgers at home. Once a week we eat burgers at home, and we make the patties using chickpeas, beans like rajma beans, potatoes in there. What else do we put?
Nuts,
Nuts, all sorts of stuff. But
spices.
it's a big fat meat, a lot of beetroot. Beetroot is great in there. It also starts to look nice and red. But these, when you make this and you make it tasty, and if you like your masalas and all that, you put it in there, when you make the patty. So you stick to your palate, but it's very satisfying. So you get the entire burger satisfaction like you would otherwise. You've got your bun, put a lot of veggies in there, this thing. We make sauces using cashew and whatnot, so it can taste really cheesy as well. Use nutritional yeast, which gives you a lot of that cheese satisfaction. So it's a fully satisfactory meal. You don't feel like you're missing out, right?
Yeah.
And for those of you who like fries, you can try using sweet potatoes. It also fills you up, and it's so good. It's got so much energy in there. Yeah, and we've recently got an air fryer, which has become my best friend in the kitchen. It's basically you're frying with air, and I do put a little bit of oil in there because I'm no saint. I like that, I like it to be a little bit moist and all of that. It's fantastic. I mean, in 15 minutes, you've got your fries, and they're not deep fried, and they're as, if not more, yummy. So tons of options out there. Just take it slow. Just take the journey slowly.
I think what we should end with, because we've had a good hour and a half of this talk, is with the last question that's out here. What is, if you run through all the meals on your day, I know you started with that, and maybe Namu, you can chime in. I think I wrote down while you were talking, only because I'm also interested. You said your morning starts with, say, muesli, or something like that with some soy milk and some fruit, or what else? I mean, you want to give us a run through?
Sure. So, well, for me, it's a bowl of oatmeal.
And would that be whole oats or quick cooking oats?
Oats. I've just tried steel cut oats, but since so our my 80-year-old mother-in-law has also moved in, so we have to accommodate everybody's tastes and issues and everything, so she's able to chew only a certain, so we kind of cook together. I just have the rolled oats, but we add like chia seeds and flax. Actually, I blend them so we can absorb it better. By the way, it's much better if you blend your seeds, and bananas and a little bit of cinnamon. So it's a very delicious, and now that it's raining in Bangalore and it's cold in the mornings, it's very comforting to have this warm bowl of oatmeal.
And that keeps you going all the way till when?
till lunch mostly, but sometimes we have a small smoothie or a fruit in between the
Okay.
meal. And lunch is usually a giant salad for Vivek and me. So quite a big bowl, and everything goes in there: sprouts and microgreens and all the
I'm
colors
going
of.
to bring a salad bowl. So I'll be
Okay, sure.
Mhm.
So lots of all our raw veggies like purple cabbage, and sometimes I even grate nol kol. We put some steamed broccoli in there, tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, beetroot, everything that we have. It's very, very, very colorful. And we usually make a tahini.
So Mama Bear,
This is
Mama Bear eats in this bowl full. Papa Bear eats
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Like-
a great, I'm really glad you brought that, because one would look at that and say, that's large,
Yeah,
right?
it's large, and we're chewing and chewing. It's so crunchy and
You get a
crunchy,
jaw
crunchy,
workout.
crunch, crunch, crunch,
Yeah.
crunch, crunch. So the kids eat a mini version of that, and we add a tahini salad. By the way, tahini is made out of sesame seeds. That's very high in calcium.
highest content of calcium.
And by the way, since I've gone vegan, I have none of those calcium deficiency spots which I always had. All right, and we put
Okay, I don't either. Nice. Yeah.
and the green leaves, so whatever fresh romaine or all the local stuff, everything we buy is local. And then I put some pumpkin seeds in there, so and sometimes we add some quinoa. So it's a very generous, very satisfying meal. The kids eat a smaller version of that, and because of lockdown and how busy we are, they eat like whole grain dosas every day for lunch.
Oh,
All right.
I see.
So I make sure that they've had a lot of colors, they've had all their food groups and things like that, and they love dosas. So yeah, and then evening we usually have a smoothie, and with some superfoods, or a cacao, like a nice chocolate cacao smoothie sweetened with dates and frozen bananas. Yeah,
Frozen bananas.
you use frozen bananas versus fresh, and it tastes like ice cream.
So that's your ice cream. Very easy, cheapest in the world, yummiest ice cream replacement.
Is
Chop bananas, throw them in the freezer, take them out, blend them. You won't believe it.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll have a couple of crackers, or if I'm really hungry. But
Right.
if I like I said, if I forgot my salad at work and I got some neighborhood darshini idlis, I'll be starving in the evening and likely to cheat, have those cheat cravings, and you want to eat something sweet and all. Otherwise, there's no cravings. And I do organize, a lot of healthy treats, sweet treats, right? So there are so many local bakers, either cafes or home bakers, who make healthier cookies and muffins and all. So I make sure that we have them stocked up at home. There's always one or two healthy treats, so the kids can snack on that. And I mean, so can we.
Yeah.
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 So when is your last meal of the day?
We used to eat like by 6:30, but now we eat at about 7, dinner. And dinner is all those plates that you shared earlier. We do eat a lot of different cuisines, but I don't want to tell everyone that they have to do that. I do that because we don't necessarily only love Indian food in this house. We love Mexican, we love burger night, we love pasta night, we love all of these different cuisines. The kids love Thai curry. So everyone's happy, and I cook all of these different cuisines. But of course, everyone can definitely eat Indian food every day and get all the nutrition from it. So that's usually a hot meal, something that we've cooked. It's usually prepared that same day. And like I said, mostly I make it. It's quite simple. I keep things quite simple. And, I don't spend more than half an hour or 1 hour cooking.
Okay, nice. So what I'm hearing as a summary from all of this, Namu and Vivek, is that it's simple. It's not very complicated. It might feel like a steep learning curve. It doesn't have to be. You can begin exactly where you are. It's like a bit like yoga, your own increment is already a benefit to you, right? And it sounds like for you, the fitness is not only all this, but added to it is obviously all your exercise. I think it's a mistaken idea that if we just switch to plant-based diet, suddenly we're all fit. I think you get fitter than where you were, but you don't miss out on all those aspects, right? You continue to work out, you continue to train. In your case, Vivek and Namu, you continue to do your fitness stuff, right? You just do it better based on this diet. Is that right?
Yes. Also, you see other benefits, like my skin really glows and I don't get any pimples. And so my teenage daughter, my older one, obviously when she's going through her teenage years, and that's when we all get acne and feel self-conscious, and especially when she gave up eggs and dairy, it just all
It
went.
all just went away. Yeah.
That was the clincher for her.
Yeah.
And she had all this pimple drama as a teenager. And we said, just stop the dairy and eggs. Like, just try
We'll
it.
see how it goes.
And it just went.
It
And
just
then
went.
that was it. That was
Yeah,
enough.
so she won't even eat it in anyone else's house,
Amazing, amazing.
So,
Nice.
yeah, you get
Whatever motivates you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So guys, this is huge thank you, Namu and Vivek. I think everyone else can now see why I was very particular that we get to share your journey, your story, and where you are right now, because it's beneficial for all of us. I had a sneak peek a few years ago. Thanks to Vivek for coming over. I think, Rashi, if you can actually share all of their social media handles, then everybody can reach out to them directly through those handles. And then, of course, the Earthen one's information, the email ID that you got, you can always write back to that. So Ruchika's team will get back to you. With that, there you go.
I was going to say Namu recommends should definitely be there, because that's a big help for folks who are trying to find.
I kid you not, I don't know 90% of the things you're recommending, Namu, because and I live right here, so it's very helpful to me. And I keep thinking I have to go back to your Facebook and everywhere to see what did you recommend, because they're so exciting.
They are really exciting, Nithya. We're so lucky in India. I feel like we were not as advanced as California will have so many vegan options. They were ahead, but now there's just so many wonderful options, and it's so good to be able to support all of these businesses and have access to all these options. We have home delivery of beautiful organic tofu. We get smoked tofu. I get black Himalayan tofu from Health on Plants. It's just, I feel that this is a really good time for people to make that switch.
I know, and 8 years ago, when I turned vegan, I didn't have those options, which reminds me, one of the questions was, how long have you been vegan? And I think the answer is both of you together, maybe the last 4 years, really fully vegan.
4 years, 3 to 4 years.
4 years, right? And by the way, as it happens, I just had the brownies from Mitti Cafe today, Energivate.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
Amazing, amazing. So while I was trying to be plant-based, I was like downing some of those brownies.
Ragi, can you imagine?
It's ragi.
Yes.
It's made with ragi.
So you're getting calcium.
So you're getting the most
God.
calcium and iron. It's amazing. And I think it's like the yummiest brownie
Ever.
of all brownies.
I'm so glad you told me that, because the second dabba was to be given to somebody else. Maybe I will have it myself. Thank you.
No, just eat it.
All right. I must say thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. The recording will be made available. You're welcome to write back to us. And if you have any more questions for Namu and Vivek, when you write into the email address, we'll make sure to reach out to them and get back to you. Yeah. Thank you. And biggest thanks to Surya. Please.
Yes.
Tell her we love her.
Yeah, thanks for giving
Thank
us.
you so much.
Yes, she was a real
Really
star.
enjoyed it.
Good luck to everyone.
Thank
on
you
their
all for
journey.
listening.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Nitya.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.